Okay, so morning, everybody. Shana Tova. I think I could say still Shana Tova. I don't know. We're still in the month of Tishrei, even though all the Chagim are over. So we had a nice break. I don't know. I mean, I was busy, but I don't know about you guys. I was a little bit, but thank God, all went well. I didn't lose my voice any of the days. No, everything went well. Thank God. Baruch Hashem. Okay, so we're back in our discussion about tefillot for Shabbat. Last time, we discussed the structure of the Amidah for Shabbat, the Amidah, Shabbat, Shacharit. So just today, what I would like to do is kind of delve into the text a little bit more and look in the different components that we have in the Amidah. But just kind of like remind ourselves a little bit recap on the structure of that Amidah. So the Amidah, just there is a reminder, is kind of the heart of every service. Right? If you have a mincha, Shacharit, Mariv, Musaf, whatever that is, the heart of the service is the Amidah. Okay, so that's number one that we have to remember. Number one. Number two, the Amidah has a fixed structure. And the structure is beginning, middle, and end. Now, the beginning and the end never change. Never change. We have variations on the theme, but they never change. So whether it's a morning, evening, afternoon, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Tuesday morning, Wednesday evening, Shabbat, whatever that is, never changes. Okay? And the beginning consists of 3 blessings, and the end consists of 3 blessings. Okay? So far, so good? Now we get a little bit to the confusing part. What changes is the middle. During the week, we have 13 petitions, 13 bakashot. And on Shabbat, on holidays, we have one central bracha called Holiness of the Day, Dushat Hayom. Okay? So on Shabbat, on holidays, we have 7 blessings because usually 3 and 3 is 1 and 1 is 7. And during the week, we have 19. Okay? Another name for that Amidah that has 19 blessings is the Shmona Esrei, which is 18. Okay. We'll discuss that, why the difference, why we call it 18 when in reality we have 19, just to make it very, very short. There are 2 main theories about that. One is that one blessing was added later on, and a different theory says that one of the blessings split into 2 individual blessings. So this is how we ended up from 18 to 19. Okay, but that's the weekday liturgy. Now we're dealing with Shabbat. Shabbat and Yom Tov, we have 7. The only time where we have actually a different number of blessings is the Musaf for Rosh Hashanah. I know that you paid attention. And on that day, on that tefillah, we had 9. Okay, but that's the only unusual Amidah. Fine. So we have on Shabbat and Yom Tov 7 blessings. The 3 in the beginning never change. We're going to discuss them in a minute. The 3 at the end never change. We're going to discuss them in 5 minutes. And then the middle one, we discussed one. It's on Yom Tov. Sorry, on Yom Tov it doesn't change. On Shabbat, it changes between the evening and the afternoon and the morning. Okay, we spoke about that. The idea of Shabbat is the only day that its nature changes, it evolves. There's something Kabbalistic, call it, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, that the day has different qualities. The Friday night is not like Shabbat morning, and Shabbat morning is not like Shabbat afternoon. There's something going on over there, and that is being reflected in the Amidah. Okay? And therefore it changes. Other days, it doesn't change, because a Tuesday, from the beginning of Tuesday till the end of Tuesday, is still the Tuesday. It's the same Tuesday. Okay? And therefore, when there is a holiday that falls on a Tuesday, it's still a Tuesday. Yes, we have all the restrictions and all the whatever is associated with a holiday, but it's still a Tuesday at the end of the day. Shabbat is the only day that by nature, from the time of creation, it changes. And therefore, the Amidah changes as well. Fine. So, maybe it's easier to start from the very beginning. So, let's talk about that for a second. Let's take, we're on page 481. And you can see that the first bracha, 481, starts with Avot, patriarchs. Okay, in other denominations, it's called patriarchs and matriarchs, and they add also matriarchs. Okay, so this is the first blessing. Then in the middle of the page, the second part of the page, you can see it's called divine might, gvurot. Okay, and go to page 485. In the top, it's called holiness, and that's the third bracha. Okay, that's the unit or the subunit that we call the beginning. Okay, so far so good? Yes, yes? Okay. So, now, the first three brachot, that subunit, those three blessings, are called shevach, praise. Okay, they're characterized as praise. And indeed, the rabbis in the Talmud teach us that person should daven, when we daven, should have three components: shevach, bakasha, and hoda'ah, i.e., praise, petition or request, and thanksgiving. And the rabbis learned that from Moshe Rabbeinu himself, from Moses. If you look, and the Talmud goes into details and proves that the prayer of Moshe himself had those three components. Throughout our tefillot, we're going to see those three components. And in the Amidah, it's very, very clear. Now, excellent. Technically, yes, sometimes we kind of deviate. So when we talk about the Amidah, yes, it's going to be in that order. Now, the only thing is that that particular structure, Shevach, Hoda'ah, Shevach, Bakasha, and Hoda'ah, applies more to the weekday Amidah. Because we have the three in the beginning that I said, that's Shevach. Then we have the petitions, the 13 requests / petitions. That's the Bakasha in the middle. Then we have the Hoda'ah, it's the last three, Thanksgiving. What happens on Shabbat? The middle is not Bakasha. And Yom Tov as well. It's not Bakasha. Why? Because on Shabbat, we refrain from petitions, from requests. Shabbat is a day that by nature we're beyond that. We're beyond our needs. It's not that we don't have needs, but we're supposed to be transported into a different reality where we're not bothered by our needs, whether it's health, sustenance, all the stuff that we ask for during the week. During the week, we are very much, we're running around, we go to work, we do this, we take care of like million of things, right? And we try to better the world, but we try to better ourselves. And therefore, we are very much aware of our needs. On Shabbat, we've been told we need to put all that stuff on hold. Put it on hold. Obviously, if somebody's in pain, then, But the point is that the focus possible should be on other things. And therefore, we do not recite all those petitions, all those bakashot. I'll take it another step further, theologically speaking. So when we talk about Shabbat, there's a lot of don'ts. You can't do this, you can do. What is the kind of where this is all coming from? So you're going to tell me, well, you just read it in the first parsha in the Torah. God rested on the seventh day. We are commanded to also rest on the seventh day, just like God. And because of that, we can't do all those action, all those melachot, all those things, right? Okay. We have to reflect. Okay. So what are all the things that we cannot do on Shabbat? Build an ark is part of it, yes, but it's creative work. It's all the stuff that actually are dealing with our needs. So you might be aware of the 39 melachot, right? There are the 39 prohibitions of Shabbat. There are kind of categories of actions, things that we cannot do. And from that stems a lot of others. And that's basically the do's and the don'ts that we have on Shabbat today. Okay? If you look at the core of those 39, they're all grouped around particular categories, let's call it. Okay? One is shelter. Clothes, building, all that kind of stuff. Everything that's supposed to shelter us. And therefore, we can't, do anything that has to do with the actions that we build stuff or we make clothes or whatever. Any of those, that's why you can cut and you can, sew and you can build and all that kind of stuff. So everything that we're dealing with, that's one category. What's the other category? Food, right? That's, again, what we need as like our basic, it's like shelter and food. This is, or food and shelter, whatever order you want, right? These are the basic needs of a person, right? And so all the actions that are associated with preparing food, going all the way to planting, watering, harvesting, baking, lighting a fire for cooking, all that stuff stems from actions that are associated with preparing food. And therefore, they are prohibited. Why? Because on Shabbat, we are in a different place, spiritual place. We're supposed to refrain from refrain from thinking about, thinking of our existence and what? As you said, reflect. Sit back, digest, reflect, understand what is it that I've done because I'm commanded to be creative during the week. Right? That's what God told Adam last week in the Parsha. You need to take care of this planet. You're going to be in control. You need to advance this world. So the entire week, we advance the world. We're doing things, whatever. Shabbat, we have to sit, reflect on that, understand. Because if we don't do that, maybe we're not doing the right thing. Okay? So part of the basic human experience is what? Reflect. Am I doing? Instead of like running around nonstop, I need to evaluate. Thank you. That was the word I was looking for. Right? I need to evaluate. So how do I do that? I take a step back, I reflect, I refrain from that stuff. I don't do any of that work. Okay?
Well, the commandment is keep the day holy.
What does it mean?
And that's the question, because different people come up with different answers.
I'm going to the very, very basic ideas in the story of creation. Okay?
But I mean, that's what we're trying to.
Correct, but that's what God did as well. God refrained. He looked at Kol Asher Asa. God looks at all He has created over the week. Okay, and then you have kind of okay, what am I doing next week? Okay, so this is why we refrain from all that stuff. Fine. Why are we talking about that? Kedushat Hayom. Oh, thank you. Because thank you. Because so since we are, yes, we're above that. We're in a different place, spiritual place. We're reflecting. We're not creating, right? All that stuff. We do not say the petitions. By the way, there's another philosophical, theological element here. What happened? If for some reason you didn't cook for Shabbat. Exactly. You don't eat, or you go to your neighbors, or I don't know what. Can you like, oh, I didn't have a chance. So, there's take 3 hours and cook for Shabbat. No. We say no. Why? Why? Okay, but there was an emergency. I couldn't. Why? Why the answer is, I mean, you're absolutely right. But why the answer is too bad? Why? But it was it was an emergency. So what? I was planning, I had the right intentions. Okay, but I was in an emergency. Why? Just give me a break. Just a couple of hours, couple of minutes. Something else. Philosophical, you could, okay, fine. Brings you back to earth. Oh, I'm not so sure exactly what it means. It brings you back to the physical world. Okay, fine. But there's something else. It's also recognizing our limitations. I'm stuck. And what does it mean? Well, either I'm going to eat an apple, or I'm going to starve, or I'm going to go knock on the door of my neighbor and ask for some food, right? Okay. All those scenarios is what? Going to make me recognize my limitations. My limitations. What is the fear? The fear is that I'm running around the whole week. I'm creating, I'm doing, I'm like a god. I can start thinking it's all me. I can do it all. It's up to me. If I work hard enough, I'm going to make it. Yes, But no, we're limited. And that weekly reminder also is part of that. There's a hard stop. It's Shabbat. Sorry. You can't do that. And it's a reminder, yes, I'm not a God. I'm limited. Okay? So that's part of it also. Okay. Back to our kind of topic. So we don't have the requests on Shabbat. Now we understand why, because it goes against the nature of Shabbat. Fine. So we have 7, and as I said, the holiness of the day is the middle bracha to deal with Shabbat. Let's go, though, deal with the first 3 brachot, which I said has to do with Shebach. So there's a statement in the Talmud that says, that Rabbi Hanina says, that why this is so important, that structure of praise, petition, thanksgiving, why this is so important. He said, look, think that you are, okay, that's not Rabbi Hanina, I'm paraphrasing. He's talking about the slave that goes before his master, but let's make it relevant to 2024. You work somewhere and you want to get a raise. Okay, so you go to your boss, and what do you think is going to happen if you're going to say, I want a raise? Is it going to go so well? Or perhaps you say, listen, want to talk to you about something. We always had wonderful relationship. You're such an amazing boss. You're generous. The company is doing so well under your leadership, blah, 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 blah. Right? That's Shebach, that's praise. Then you say, and because of that, because I know the company is doing so well and blah, 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 I would like to have a raise. And I would like to thank you in advance. And I know that you take it seriously, my request. That's the Thanksgiving. Okay, that's not me. That's Rabbi Hanina in the Talmud. He doesn't talk about the raise. He's talking about the slave that comes before. But it's the same thing. Okay, the principle is the same. And that's what the rabbi teaches us. When you want something, that's the formula. Start with praise. It's not sucking up. It's not that. It's really looking at the positive. It's a recognition. It's understanding the positive, because that's the basis by which you might receive what you want. Yes, Shoshana.
I would like to come back to the limitations, with the contemplation, because when we contemplate and we said, okay, now I'm and we learn Torah, right? We can study Torah on Shabbat, because it helps us to contemplate. So now we think about it. Okay, so now I'm going hungry, but the Torah tells us that you should love thy neighbor. I love my neighbor. I'll go to him. And that is a practical lesson of why we should behave in the way the Torah tells us.
Nice. Okay. So,
what did she say?
She said that it's one of the things we do on Shabbat is also study Torah, and she said that it's tightly connected. That the study of Torah is the practical application of those theological ideas. Okay.
I mean, this specific when we forgot to cook or couldn't cook.
So now let's go to the blessings themselves. So what do we know about the blessings? First of all, the blessings were composed by Anshe Knesset Agdola, the members of the Great Assembly. And every Amidah starts with one pasuk from Tehillim, from Psalm 51, Hashem, sfatai titzach ufi agiti ilatecha. God, open my lips so that my mouth may declare your praise. Interestingly, there's a discussion, a technical discussion in the Talmud whether this is part of the Amidah or not. The conclusion is kind of unclear. But a couple of ideas behind that. So why do we say it? Why do we say it? To get us into it, that's okay. But what does it mean? What? But look, what do you mean? I have like million of pages here that that I have a text here. I don't need like the rabbis already wrote for me everything I need to say. Blah, 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 all the words are here. So what do I mean? God opened my lips. Okay.
To an obstinate person who wouldn't pray.
Okay, but I'm saying that is fine. However, this is at the beginning of the Amidah.
Is it kind of similar in people to open their lips to talk with how God creates the world through that voice?
Okay, interesting. But I have the words here. So what exactly? So what does it mean here? Okay, so here are a couple of ideas. I basically said, God, you know what I want. You know what I need. I'm not so sure that I'll be able to express myself in the right way. I'm not. So what am I asking you? Open my lips. So what does it mean? It means that free me from my limitations perhaps of expressing myself, my limitations of not fully thinking of the process of what I really want, etc., etc., etc. So help me in that process. What is, I want to take one step backwards for a second. We say, what is it called, like to daven, like in Hebrew? Like, to daven, by the way, just it's in Yiddish. That's not right. So, okay, lehit palel. What does it mean, lehit palel? So you say to pray. Good. So
What did you say?
reflect. So the shoresh, the root of the word is palal, right? Pei lamed lamed. We find it several times in Tanakh. And it's not really to pray, it's to reflect. But now, let's take it another step. What binyan is this? Lehit palel. Exactly. It's reflective.
Reflexive.
Do it to yourself. It's like when I say lehit labesh, I get dressed, right? Lehit rachetz, I'm getting washed, right? I'm doing something for myself. So lehit palel is to clarify, to what did you say? Look into myself. It's kind of like self-examination, to verbalize. It's something internal that is happening. So when I'm lehit palel, when I'm doing that, it's not for God, it's for myself. I need to express that. So through that because God knows what's in my mind. But I need to go through that experience. I need to go through that process in which I think it through and I say it, articulate it, thank you. So it's clear to me, because it's like if you want to do something, right? I don't know. Some of you, I do it very often. Like, I have like in the morning, I write for myself a list of tasks, what I need to do today. And By the way, if you want to do something, and it's not me, obviously, it's like, psychology, whatever, everybody will tell you something. It's like, let's assume it's something that complex and big or whatever, it's a process or something. The more you detail it, the more you break it down, you have better chance of achieving that. One of the things that I do with my kids, and it's hard because A, they're kids, and number two, it's in that moment of hysteria and like, that kind of stuff. So you need to spend time, first of all, calm down, and it's also like, I'm a man, I have 4 girls, so we think in a different way also. But one of the things that I try to work with them, okay, I get it, you have a problem. There's a problem. Okay, let's break it down. And the more you break it down, the more detail, the easier it is for you to find a solution. Sometimes it's like, I got to do like, this. So, okay, what does it mean? Let's break it down. Boom, boom. So this is composed of 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is this. And how, okay, so let's go from A to B, not from A to Z. Let's just like figure it, break it down, details. That's what every psychologist will tell you. This is how you implement a change. This is how you accomplish things in life. Steps, whatever you want to call it, right? So what do we do in prayer, in tefillah? We do the same thing. We do the same thing. And why do we need to say it? Because that's part of the process. Sometimes if you need if you have a case, or even before, remember going before the boss and asking for, it's a good idea to practice in front of the mirror or in front of your spouse, or whatever that is, right? Why do we do that? If I need to speak, for example, if I need to give the sermon or whatever, I do rehearsals. Not only I do rehearsal, I record myself. And then I listen to myself, and then I see, oh, maybe it's too long. I can, I need to trim it or whatever, or maybe this is not good, right? It's the same thing. Process. Tefillah is the same process. Okay? So we reflect, okay? Ooh, low battery. Hopefully we're gonna make it. No, this laptop. Yeah, I don't know where's the.
It seems to me on a practical level that even on Shabbat, you're in the synagogue.
Yeah.
And trying to focus to the best you can on all of this, that the gates are high. To,
That's a sign that you're alive, though, that the Yetzirah is active.
For me, what this is saying, you're talking about this fight against the Yetzer Hara.
Okay.
Because as you're trying to focus and focusing on praise, it can also sneak in there from the other side to remind
Fine.
you about other things. It might not end up in praise.
That is fine. Shoshana, just give me a second. I'm gonna run to Arik and take the cord because I'm afraid that this is gonna die in the middle. Just give me a second. Unauthorized break. Okay. I don't want to leave Shoshana in the middle. Okay.
Hey, Shoshana.
Okay. Shoshana, yes.
We are still talking about Sfatai Tiftach.
Yes.
Okay. I want to praise you, and then I want to ask you something.
Yeah.
I know that even my words are limited. I don't know if I will be able to express what I really want.
Correct.
So because I'm so limited with my language, let me do it at the moment with the language that I know that you liked before, which is Moshe, David, and so on.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice. Nice. Okay. So I'm gonna continue. So this pasuk, maybe should we wait a minute? Or we'll just wait a minute. Okay. So the pasuk, as I mentioned, is taken from the book of Tehillim, and it's always important, like when we quote something from Tanakh, is to understand context. So it's Tehillim 51, right? If you look there, you'll see it's a very, very, actually, it's not there, but it's King David, right? But in a very particular time in his life. It's immediately after he understands and take responsibility for his sin with Bathsheba. And he basically says, God, I know I can't fool you. I know you know what's going on. And he says, and he calls God and says, open my lips. Help me to reach that state in which I can honestly beseech you. Because I'm struggling. So when you put it in the context, then you understand, it's much more powerful. One of my, I don't know where I saw it, somewhere I saw it, that this pasuk basically tells us, pray for a moment before you pray. Which is a beautiful idea. Okay? Okay. So this is, now, why, and by the way, so we have this pasuk at the beginning. At the end, just, look at the end of the Amidah. We go to very, very bottom of 493. There's another verse from Tehillim, from Psalm, and that's from Psalm 19. And that's, when we get there, we'll talk about that. But I'm already telling you that there's a kind of a parallel thing. We start with pasuk from Tehillim, and we end with a pasuk from Tehillim, the Amidah. Okay, and the two complement each other. Okay, fine. So now, let's go into the bracha itself, the first bracha. So, the first bracha is called Avot, patriarchs. And why? Why we're starting with that? Like, isn't that better to start with, I don't know, me, or to start with, I don't know, something? Why am I bringing, my parents or whatever, my ancestors or whatever? Yeah, but this is not about them. It's about me. I want to approach, remember, I want to approach God in tefillah. I want to ask for something.
Without them, it wouldn't be yes.
Okay,
You like,
exactly. That's exactly it. Because of them, I have the right even to approach you. Okay. Very interestingly, yes.
So, trying to sense of the fact that because it says God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God
Yeah.
of Jacob, that God to each of these patriarchs, it was like a kaleidoscope representing a different aspect of God's self. So
Okay, great. So, excellent. So, that's exactly my next point. God of Abraham is perhaps slightly different than the God of Yitzchak, Isaac, Jacob. Everybody, and that means if it was for them, it's also for me. It's not because God is different, but because my experience is different, because I'm different. I'm not Abraham. And because of that, my relationship with God is different. Okay, so that explains why we say the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, because Abraham and Isaac did not experience God in exactly the same way. Okay, so that's number one. And if that's the case, what does it mean? Okay, excellent. And what does it mean?
that's a relationship with me.
Good. And that behooves me to do what? Or to further investigate that and continue and perfect and work on that relationship. And therefore, my relationship with him as a child, for example, is going to be different than my relationship with him as an adult. And every day, it's a little bit different because hopefully I'm different. Yes, closer, hopefully. But even if I feel more distant, and certain times in life we do feel more distant, it's again part of my relationship with him. And the idea here is to work on that relationship. Every challenge is going to make it stronger. And that means I need to work on my relationship with God all the time. Okay? There's also a cute idea from a Hasidic master that says, why do we start with the Avot, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob? Because there's a spark in each one of us from them, where they are descendants. There's something from Abraham in each one of us. Same goes for Isaac and Jacob. Call it DNA, call it whatever you want, a spark. I would like to think of it as something more spiritual, something that is more, So when I go into that bracha, ask yourself, do I recognize that? Do I recognize the fact that I'm a descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? And if so, if there's something in me from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, what does it mean? How that impact my relationship with God?
Brings me closer.
Automatically, or do I need to do something about that? These are all open questions. Well, or at least try. At least try. Okay, those are the questions that I think should percolate in our mind when we recite and stuff. And we say, look, וזוכר חסדי אבות, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה. Who remembers the loving kindness of the fathers and will bring a redeemer to their children's children. That's us. For what? For the sake of his name. And how that's going to happen? in love. It's the only way it's going to work. That's the only way it's going to work. Both. Okay? And because of that, King, Helper, Savior, Shield. Okay? I need the protection. I need you to save me. I need you to help me. And I recognize that you are my King. Okay. So what I have here. Yes? Yep.
Okay, so in the concept of where we are now in history, we're either in or near the end of the predicted amount of time that we have.
I have no idea.
You know, the 6,000.
I heard about that, but I'm not.
In this most important prayer, you got Abraham, which everybody claims, but then you've got the reaffirmation of Yitzchak. So who's not mentioned? Ishmael, God of Yaakov, who's not mentioned? Esau.
Correct.
So this confirms the choices that seem apparent from the Torah that we accept.
Correct.
The challengers to the Jewish way include those who don't accept Yitzhak, they look to Ishmael, and
So?
those who don't accept Yaakov, they look to Edom or
Maybe,
Esau.
maybe, okay. So,
I don't know.
but this is our stuff.
This is our stuff, but it's sort of, I think there's something there in a sort of a hidden sense, you know, that it's about how to play.
I don't think that it's like, you know, it's very simple. Look, it is very straightforward. Judaism is about choices in life. Okay? Biology is secondary. Choices, that's what matters. Okay? Abraham was chosen because of his actions. Abraham was one of 3 brothers, by the way, right? Haran and it'll come to me. Okay, but he was chosen because he is the one who recognized God. Abraham had 2 sons. One was the, let's call it the follower, the one that chose that route. That's life. That's Isaac. Ishmael was not interested in that.
Well, is that exactly true? Your only son, the son that you loved, your only son, the son that you loved?
It has nothing to do with that.
No?
Ishmael before that already rejected that lifestyle. Before Isaac was born.
Yeah, what is there about Ishmael that's anything like Abraham?
That's exactly my point.
Maybe he's not biologically his son.
He is. I mean, if you go by the Torah, then yes.
Well, he isn't then for sure. It doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, we all agree with that. Let's not disagree with that. They always disagree about everything.
About what?
Whether Yitzhak is the biological son.
Yitzchak, well, if you believe the Torah, then Yitzchak is the biological son of Abraham. It's right there, black and white.
I'm not, well. She didn't fool that. What? Sarah didn't fool that. Not Sarah.
Then who?
If she was from Egypt in the Middle East.
You're talking about Hagar. Yeah, so?
The ways of the Egyptian princesses was different than the Jews.
Okay,
She could have that child with someone else.
maybe, but That's not the narrative from the Torah. The narrative from the Torah is very clear that Abraham had relations with her and Ishmael was born.
I do not disagree that he had relations with her and.
And as a result,
and the child-
right? That's the narrative that we go with.
I don't know what that child was.
Oh, it's the first one. The thing is, she brought him up incorrectly.
Okay.
She was not a good mother. That's.
Very good. So why, the question is why we say the shield of Abraham and not the shield of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or the shield of the patriarchs or whatever. That goes back to the incident of Brit Ben Abetarim, the famous incident where Abraham has that vision. And God tells him, I've chosen you, and you're going to be a father of a great nation, and the whole thing. And if you remember at the end, he takes like the bird and he kills the bird and part it, like the whole thing. And he tells him, you're going to have, this is going to be your land, right? The entire land. And Abraham says, Bama eda ki irashena. How do I know that this is all true? This is like, this is a dream. I don't really know you. It's like, this is one of our first conversations. Give me something, right? And the Talmud picks on that, and the Talmud says that because of that, it says, Becha, okay, before the Talmud. What the Torah says, the Torah continues, Vayachsheveha lo tzedakah. Okay, there's a lot of interpretations to that pasuk, but basically Abraham believed. He bought it. He said, okay, God, you didn't give me any proof, but I'm still with you. You tell me I'm going to have like, descendants like this, the sand of the sea, whatever, on the beach, whatever. I don't have any children. Okay, but I still believe in you. Going to tell me that this land is going to be okay, even though I'm a foreigner. Okay, I believe. So what, according to one of the interpretation in the Talmud, so that means that God saw that act of belief that Abraham said and said, we're going to reward you for that, right? What does it mean? Bechachot means in the future, when your descendants are going to pray, bechachot, chatima, the end of the bracha is going to be, even though they're going to mention like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the chatima itself is going to be you. Magen, Abraham. Okay, that's the Talmud. It's a very, very famous quote from the Talmud. Okay, let's go to the second bracha. The second bracha is called Gevurot, or divine might, whatever that means. And he talks about a couple of elements. One, the resurrection. Resurrection. Mechaye metim. Right? And it appears several times in the bracha. And not only that, in hidden way, even more. So if you look at the beginning, Ata gibor le'olam, Hashem mechaye metim, that's one. Then you have mechalkel chayim, mechaye metim berachamim rabim. And then at the end, look at the chatima. ונאמרת לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה השם, מחיי המתים. So that's 4 times explicitly that we talk about the resurrection. Yes? Okay, but it's not necessarily, it's mechayeh that gives the ability to live. It's not resurrection, right? And the rabbis actually hint and they say that there are more, like, for example, the fact that we talk about the rain, that's a form of resurrecting. I mean, think about nature, right? Like the dead, what was perceived as dead, right? In the ancient world, right? All the vegetations are dead, dead during the summer, and then with the rain, they come back, right? Okay, so fine. So now, when we have when we talk about this idea, one idea is that God has the power both on the living and the dead, and God can resurrect from the dead. God can kill somebody. Okay, God has the absolute power on all that stuff. Why this is important, according to some scholars, that is, to contradict the Jesus story. Yeah.
What is he called?
But who? But what do we say? Who is the one that can do that? God. That's exactly the difference. That's the theological difference, right? Well, and I get it. So part of the of rejecting that is no. God has the ability to do that, and only God can do that. And it didn't happen. At least not reported. Okay, fine. So that you have two parallel stories in the Navi, one with Elisha and one with Eliyahu. Both have a story that they resurrected a child. You can call, like, look, a lot of modern scholars look at that as a form of CPR. They did, especially with the description, mouth to mouth, like the whole thing, If you go by the traditional one, maybe they were dead, and there's a whole range of interpretations. You can do whatever you want with that. Fine. Now, I want to just we're going to deal with that. This is going to be your job. Remind me that next time we're going to discuss the Kedusha, which is the remainder of that page, 483, because that needs like a whole chunk of time by itself. But I want to jump right into the third bracha for a second, which is Kedushat Hashem. So 485 at the top. So Atakadosh, you're holy, and your name is holy, and holy ones praise you daily. Who are the holy ones? Okay, so that's one interpretation, is us, and the other interpretation, the angels. Okay, now we spoke about it a little bit, I think, a couple of weeks ago. What is this idea of holiness, kadosh? What does it mean? Separate. Okay, and why? What does it mean that something is kadosh, that something is separate? It's a side, okay, fine. So, in other words, okay, there's a, I don't know, row of 10 buildings, okay? And I set aside, I separate one of them to be a synagogue. Now it becomes holy because I set that building as a synagogue. The rest are offices, houses, whatever that is. They don't have that kedusha. So I'm the one who created that, right? By separating.
Mhm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if I have 10 pieces of parchment and I set aside one of them to be tefillin or whatever, or a Sefer Torah, then I do whatever, I set it aside, now it becomes holy.
So does that raise it up to a holy?
I don't know what it means, raise it up, but it's separate. What do we do? Same root, right? Kadosh is the kiddushin. Kiddushin, that's the marriage. What do? I separate that particular person. So now the husband and those people have a relationship, but nobody else.
Right.
But they are separated from everybody else. That's the kiddushin. Okay. So by me, society, call whatever you want, creating that separation, we create those, I guess, limitations or whatever that is, and that creates the holiness, right? Because that's what we just said, right? If I ask you, what does it mean, kadosh? How do you translate kadosh? You're gonna say, you said holy. How do you create holiness? What's the holiness of the synagogue? What's the holiness of that parchment? It's because I separated it. Yeah, of course it's spiritual. Holiness has to do with spiritual.
Does it? Like if you have 5 diamonds and you put this one aside, it doesn't make it, you can say that part of that.
Yeah. What if I decide to take that diamond and I said it's going to be separated for what? For Beit HaMikdash. Now what? Now it's holy.
For the separation that's higher than.
Okay. For the purpose of, okay, fine. Now, let's take it from a different angle. A Hasidic one, okay? Like less philosophical. Is God separated? For sure. God is separated from everything in this world, right? Because of that, God is holy, right? Okay. Now, is God all good? Yeah, that's what we believe in. That's one of the core foundations of Judaism. We believe that God is all good. God created bad as well. We have bad in the world, but God himself is all good. By the way, we spoke about that, I think, a little bit in the Yotzer. You remember in the first blessing of the Shema, the bracha starts Yotzer or uborei choshech, oseh shalom uborei et hakol. Right? And we said that is based on what? On a pasuk from Isaiah. And the pasuk of Isaiah is actually slightly different. The pasuk oseh shalom uborei et hara. The problem was that at that time, there were, I don't remember their names. There was another belief in the world. It's part of dualism, but there was like it's like they were like Zarathustra, whatever I call it. Yeah, thank you. So they believed in like if there's several gods, there can't be only one God. Why? If God is good, then God cannot create the bad. Right? We believe no. It all comes from God, and therefore the rabbis changed the language that God creates everything. It's the good and the bad. Okay? Whatever at least we perceived as bad. Okay, fine. So now let's go back to Hasidic. This is for you. So God is all good. God is all good. However, we, as part of this world, we have good and bad, right? We have Yetzer Hara. So if we want to be Kedoshim Tihiyu Ki Kadosh Ani Hashem, if we want to walk in the ways of God, if we want to be like God, and since He is all good, what do we need to do? We need to be good, okay? But what does it mean?
Couldn't create the bad. God must.
Yeah, He did. Absolutely, He did.
We couldn't create the bad.
We cannot, but
Yeah.
God did. Yeah. Yes, we definitely can be bad. But the question is, what do we need to do in order to get more like God?
Oh, you have to be
More good, less bad. Okay? We need to work on ourselves. And so that means if we say, Ukdoshim bechol yom ya'alelu chasel, and we go with the interpretation that we are the holy ones, that God called us Kedoshim Tihiyu Ki Kadosh Ani Hashem, and we are called Kedoshim. So how do we do that? By being less bad. What does it mean? He separated us from the other nations. Okay, well, how does it translate? Okay, what does it mean? Fine. Okay, great. So you're separated. I put you in a different room. Now what? What do you do with that? Okay. And if you follow God's mitzvot, what does it mean? Okay, what does it mean? Okay, what does it mean? If God is all good, it means that what? You should be good. And by default, if I'm going to be good, I need to be less bad. Okay. Okay. So this is kind of this, and so when we talk about this idea of Kedoshim Tihiyu, Kedoshim bechol yom ya'alelu chasel, in order to praise God, we need to be separate. We need to walk in the ways of God, and we need to be Kedoshim and all that kind of stuff. It means that we need to work on ourselves constantly to be better. Okay, that's one of the messages here. Okay, just to conclude here, the Ramban has a much more realistic take on that, and he says what? The Ramban says, what does it mean to be Kedoshim? It's to live a life of balance. He said, because you can be what he called Naval Birshut HaTorah. Okay? And the example that he gives is, okay, let's say, okay, the Torah says you need to eat kosher. So you're gonna eat kosher, but you're gonna eat like a pig. You're gonna eat too much. You're not gonna, it's all kosher. It's technically it's kosher, but is it Kedoshim? Is it doing the right thing? Is it
No.
you harming your health, right? You're doing all the bad stuff. You're eating, yeah, okay. I'm gonna, whatever, junk, whatever that is. It's kosher, that it's not enough. It's not enough to follow the mitzvot technically. You need to understand the spirit of the law as well. Okay, that's what he said. Naval Birshut HaTorah. Okay. Does the Torah says you can't make money? No, you can make money. But what if this become? No, obviously, fine. You don't work on Shabbos. But no, you don't steal. You're an honest guy in business. Everything is fine.
Yeah.
Well, what do you do? What do you do with your money, though?
You have to give to charity.
Well, what if okay? If you don't use it in the proper way, then what's the point? It's all kosher. You go to work, you do the right things, you pay your taxes, whatever. You don't cheat. Everything is correct. But is that enough? No. And that's in every aspect of life. So to me, when I looked at this bracha, we need to think about this idea. I'm commanded to be like God. It means, how do I balance my life? How do I do things that are not only technically okay, but kind of look at the bigger picture. What do I do to be less bad? And when I say less bad, I'm not talking about like doing the wrong stuff. I'm not saying like steal money, cheat the IRS. No, 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 no. Everything is kosher. But is it really enough? Right? So this is kind of like the ideas that kind of float in my mind when it comes to that particular. And these are like the first three blessings, right? So the first is the connection to the patriarchs, which forces me to think about relationship, my relationship with God. The second one is about God might, the idea of life. What does it mean to be alive? Okay. And the third one, I'm taking it even a step further. It's not enough to be alive. What do you do with your life? You need to be like God. Okay. How do I do that? Really do that, like not finagle it. Okay. These are kind of like the opening questions as I start my Amidah. Before I even get during the week, talk about my needs, and Shabbat before I start discussing Shabbat.
Well, these examples that you gave, like, not, even eating.
It's just like examples, but it could be like any aspect of life.
Instead of bringing you closer to God, take you further away from God.
Correct.
And what they kind of remind me of the role that the little household God played in paganism, because they start to control you and they become.
So I have even better analogy for you.
Oh.
And with that, we're really going to end. The first parsha, right? Bereshit. Two stories. One of sins. One is the sin of Adam, eating from the forbidden fruit, whatever, right? And then the first murder, Cain and Abel. Yeah. And if you look at the two stories, smack in the beginning, right? You have the two stories and they're very, very similar. First of all, if you look at the language, a lot of the roots that repeat, okay? Both are punished in kind of similar way. Adam is kicked out from the Garden of Eden. Cain is going to be Nava Nat Ba'aret. There's a lot of similarities. Some of you, I don't know, some of you I think been with me in previous series, like where we had like, parallel stories, remember that? So I always say that if there's two stories that are similar, it's because the Torah wants to show us what is the difference, to highlight the difference. Okay? And what's going on over there? Adam was commanded, do not eat from that fruit. Was Cain ever commanded, do not kill your brother? No.
He was warned.
He was not warned. That happened later. He didn't have anything. And yet, the Torah is saying something very, very striking.
Wasn't it Lupanav and then the
Yeah,
That's a warning.
Okay, fine. It's a warning. Okay. But what is it? I'm saying like this is the beginning of the Torah. What is the Torah trying to teach me here? Why? There are two types of laws in this world. One is the written law. Do this, don't do this. I'm telling you, not telling you, written, spoken, whatever. And then there's the other type of law. Call it intuition, ethics, morality. Okay? Thou shalt not kill. It's ingrained in us as human beings. We don't need somebody to tell me it's wrong to murder. And yet we do. Yeah. Right? And this is, I think, why the two stories are there, like, to tell us you need to listen to both. Just a second. What? He was a human being. As a human being, certain things are part of who we are as human beings. This idea of thou shalt not murder is inherent in us as human beings.
How did he struck his brother
Okay, that's
that he was gonna kill him?
That's matter of interpretation, whatever. But what I'm trying to tell you is, I think, and by the way, if he didn't know, he would not have punished. The fact that he was punished tells you something. There's certain things, I'm not talking about Adam anymore. I'm not talking about Cain. I'm talking about the message, what the Torah is trying to teach us. Because it's not about the past. If you think that the Torah is stuck in the past, then we're wasting our time. Right? The Torah was written perhaps in the past, but the messages are relevant to every day, right? So what is it that they're trying to tell me? They're trying to tell me, I think, that there are two types of laws. The one that is written, spoken, whatever, and there's things that we just need to get as part of our intuition, as part of morality, a part of ethics, a part of, of being human beings. Okay? And in order to navigate in this world, we have to do both. You can't say, well, the Torah didn't say that, or the law doesn't say that, so I can do whatever I want. So I can, eat candy and junk food all day long, and it's all kosher. It's not good for you. I don't need to write it as a law in the Torah says, don't eat junk food because you're going to abuse your body. Don't smoke. Well, that was discovered later on. But once it's discovered, it's the same idea, right?
Yeah, they know how to.
But at the same time, you can't say, "Whoa, I'm gonna follow my conscience only, and I don't care what's the rule of the state and on the rule of the." No, you can't do that. So it's the two voices. And I think like the Torah is trying to teach us in the very beginning. You need to listen to those two voices. I'm not getting into technicalities, but generally speaking, there's a law, whether it's the law of the state, it's the law of the Torah, it's the law that your parents tell you what to do, whatever that is. That's one type. And then you'll have your inner voice, your intuition, knowing that murder is wrong. You don't need somebody to tell you that. Knowing that, yeah, that's absolutely true. Harming your brother, your sister, you're supposed to know that this is wrong. And trust me, kids know this is wrong. You don't need to tell them. We do, but that's absolutely true. But there's certain things. You see somebody in the street having a heart attack, you need to go and help. It's part of being human.
Okay, in the story, in Genesis, in the part we're talking about, going from.
I'm just gonna stop the recording. Hold on, just a second. Okay, we'll continue that next week.